In the glittering world of reality television, love stories often look bigger, more dramatic, and more exciting than real life. Millions of viewers watch couples fall in love, argue, and try to build a future together. But behind the cameras, the bright lights, and the smiling scenes, the truth of relationships is often very different. Real relationships can be fragile, complicated, and deeply painful. Jenny Slatten and Sumit Singh, stars of TLC's 90-Day Fiancé, were already used to being in the public eye. Their love story had faced many challenges over the years. They had struggled with cultural differences, a large age gap, and constant criticism from people around them. Even with all those problems, they believed their love was strong enough to survive. However, what happened in their private lives became even more dramatic than anything shown on television. Their story is not only about love. It is also about sacrifice, betrayal, resilience, and the difficult courage required to leave behind everything familiar. Yes, it is true. 90-Day Fiancé star Jenny Slatten and her husband Sumit Singh have been dealing with serious family conflicts for a long time. The tension inside the family continued to grow, especially because Sumit's mother never truly accepted Jenny. The situation became even worse when Sumit Singh's mother made a shocking accusation. She claimed that Jenny Slatten had behaved badly and had even assaulted her while Sumit was not at home. The accusation created a huge conflict inside the family. Filled with anger, Sumit's mother gave him a painful ultimatum. She clearly told him, Sumit Singh, "If you don't divorce your wife, Jenny Slatten, you are no longer my son. I cannot accept you as my child anymore." Hearing such harsh words from his own mother completely broke Sumit. He felt devastated and trapped between two people he cared about deeply. On one side was his mother and family, and on the other side was the woman he loved and had chosen to marry. Eventually, Sumit realized that the constant conflict inside the family was destroying their peace. The only way to escape the endless arguments and pressure was to leave everything behind and start over somewhere else. In the end, Jenny Slatten and Sumit Singh made a very difficult decision. They decided to sell all of their property, including their home, for $1.8 million. After selling everything, they planned to permanently leave India and move to America. They also announced that they would no longer participate in the 90-Day Fiancé show or continue working with TLC. With this decision, they chose to step away from the reality television world that had followed their relationship for so many years. After selling their belongings, Sumit Singh and his wife Jenny Slatten prepared to begin a completely new life in America. Today we take a deeper look into the story of Jenny Slatten and Sumit Singh. It is a story filled with family conflict, emotional ultimatums, and the brave decision that changed their lives forever. For a short time, Jenny Slatten and Sumit Singh believed they had finally found peace. After many years of struggles, cultural conflicts, and family pressure, they were finally living together in India. They were building a life that seemed calm and stable. Their home was simple but full of warmth. Jenny's laughter often filled the house, and Sumit showed his love through small and thoughtful gestures. Neighbors sometimes saw them walking together, holding hands in the streets. Jenny's presence as a foreigner still attracted curious looks from people around them. However, Sumit's protective attitude usually kept people from saying anything directly. The couple had already survived many painful moments. Sumit had once hidden a secret marriage, which later ended in a difficult divorce. His parents had strongly opposed his relationship with Jenny from the very beginning. Despite all these challenges, Jenny and Sumit continued to choose each other. Jenny, who was older and more experienced in life, believed that love could heal even the deepest wounds. She tried hard to adapt to Indian culture. She cooked traditional meals, decorated their home, and made an effort to respect local customs even when she sometimes felt like an outsider. Sumit was often caught between two powerful forces in his life. On one side was his responsibility toward his parents and family traditions. On the other side was his loyalty and love for Jenny. He often reassured her by saying, "We have come this far together. Nothing can break us now." But beneath the surface, tension continued to grow. Sumit's mother, Sana, had never accepted Jenny. To her, Jenny was not just a foreign woman. She represented a threat to the family's traditions and the future she had imagined for her son. Sanaa's disapproval was never quiet or hidden. She expressed her anger openly and repeatedly. Family gatherings often turned into uncomfortable situations where Jenny felt judged and criticized. Everything Jenny did seemed to be examined closely. People commented on her accent, the clothes she wore, and even the way she greeted elders in the family. Sumit tried to calm the arguments and create peace between his wife and his mother. But instead of improving, the tension only grew stronger over time. The peaceful life Jenny and Sumit believed they had created was actually very fragile, like glass waiting to break. Some friends warned them, saying that the peace inside the family would not last forever. Jenny tried to ignore these warnings. She continued believing that patience and love could eventually soften Sanaa's heart. Sumit, however, began to feel increasing pressure from his family, especially from his mother. Then one evening, everything suddenly changed. Sanaa accused Jenny of behaving badly. She claimed that Jenny had insulted her and had even raised her hand against her when Sumit was not at home. The accusation shocked everyone. Jenny immediately denied the claim, tears filling her eyes. She insisted that she had never insulted or touched her mother-in-law. But the damage had already been done. Then I'll let you go. The words hit him like a blow. He turned to her, pale and trembling. Don't say that. You're the only reason I've fought this long. But I don't know how much more I can take. I feel like I'm losing myself. It was the first time Jenny saw him truly defeated. The man who had once stood against tradition, society, and even his own family was now crumbling under his mother's ultimatum. That night, Sumit lay awake, staring at the ceiling. No matter what he chose, he knew he would lose something precious. If he stayed with Jenny, he would lose his family. If he left Jenny, he would lose himself. The breaking point had arrived. And in that fragile silence, Sumit knew his next decision would define the rest of his life. After Sanaa's ultimatum, Jenny found herself standing at the edge of despair. The accusations had hurt her deeply, but what wounded her most was watching Sumit break under the pressure of his mother's words. She knew he was suffering, and she knew the choice before him was unbearable. Yet Jenny did not lash out. She did not yell or demand. Instead, she chose silence, a quiet strength few could recognize. Behind closed doors, she cried alone. But in front of Sumit, she held herself together. She understood that if she fell apart, he might collapse entirely. Jenny had always been the outsider. From the moment she arrived in India, she had been judged by neighbors, by relatives, by strangers whispering about her age and nationality. She had endured all of it with dignity. Now, faced with false accusations and the possibility of losing her husband, she relied on that same resilience. She moved through their home calmly, cooking meals, tidying rooms, and keeping a sense of normalcy. Her actions weren't denial, they were survival. She wanted Sumit to see that their love could still be a safe place, even as the world outside turned hostile. At night, when Sumit's anxiety consumed him, Jenny would sit beside him, hand gently on his. "We've faced storms before," she whispered. "This one will pass too." Her voice held no anger, only quiet determination. But inside, Jenny battled her own pain. She replayed the accusations over and over, wondering how anyone could believe such lies. She thought of all she had sacrificed, leaving her family in America, facing years of uncertainty, fighting for a love constantly questioned. Was it all for nothing, despite the doubts? Jenny refused to let bitterness take over. She reminded herself of the love that had brought her to India, the bond that carried her through humiliation and rejection. That love was worth protecting, even if it meant standing silently against the storm. Her strength did not come from shouting, it came from enduring quietly. She knew she had to be steady, the anchor for both herself and Sumit through the darkest chapter of their lives. The feud did not stay inside their home. Word spread quickly. Relatives whispered, neighbors speculated, and soon Jenny's alleged misbehavior became gossip across the community. In Indian society, family disputes rarely remain private. Stories grew, exaggerated into claims that painted her as disrespectful, even dangerous. Sumit felt the weight of the community's judgment. Friends who once supported him now urged caution. Your mother wouldn't lie, one said. Think carefully. Family is everything. Every word pierced his heart. Inside their home, tension was constant. Phone calls from relatives brought daily confrontations. His mother's sharp, unyielding voice repeated her ultimatum. Divorce her, or you are no longer my son. His father, quieter but firm, supported her stance. Jenny was unwelcome, and Sumit's loyalty was being tested. Jenny endured with quiet strength. She avoided public gatherings and stayed indoors as much as possible. But even at home, she felt the sting of rejection. Every knock at the door brought the fear of confrontation, another reminder she did not belong. The emotional toll became unbearable. Sumit withdrew, his laughter fading, his energy gone. Jenny noticed and tried to lift their spirits, cooking his favorite meals, playing songs they once danced to. But the shadow of the feud loomed over them. One evening, after another heated call with his mother, Sumit broke down. He buried his face in his hands, voice trembling. I can't take this anymore, Jenny. They'll never accept us. No matter what we do, it will never be enough. Jenny sat beside him, hand on his back. Then maybe it's time we stop fighting for their approval, she whispered. Maybe it's time we fight for ourselves. Her words hung in the air, heavy with truth. The feud had escalated beyond repair. The ultimatum was no longer just a demand, it was a war. Jenny and Sumit realized they had only two options: surrender to tradition or break free and build a new life together. The feud had reached its peak. Every day brought new confrontations, accusations, and ultimatums. They were exhausted, emotionally drained, spiritually broken, trapped in a cycle of hostility with no end in sight. One evening, after another tense phone call with his mother, Sumit sat silently, staring at the floor. Jenny placed a cup of tea in front of him, hands trembling. He didn't touch it. I can't do this anymore, Jenny, he whispered. I feel like I'm suffocating. Tears filled Jenny's eyes, but she didn't argue. She had seen the toll this feud had taken. The sleepless nights, the hollow expression, the laughter that had vanished. She knew that staying would consume them both. That night, they spoke openly, more honestly than ever. Jenny admitted, I've tried to belong here. Sumit. I've tried to be the wife your family wanted, but it's never enough. Now they're destroying us. Sumit nodded, voice breaking. I love my family, but I love you more. If staying here means losing you or losing myself, then maybe it's time we walk away. For the first time, they considered the unthinkable. Leaving India, leaving the home they had built, and starting over somewhere new. It wasn't easy. India was Sumit's birthplace, his roots, his identity. Jenny had sacrificed everything to be there, believing it would be their forever home. But the hostility had poisoned their peace. The only way forward was to escape. Over the next few days, they began planning. They met with real estate agents, arranging the sale of their property quietly. Their house, once filled with laughter and dreams, was now just a reminder of battles fought and wounds endured. Selling it felt like tearing a piece of their hearts, but it was necessary. When the offer came, $1.8 million, they accepted without hesitation. The money wasn't just financial security. It was freedom. Freedom from accusations, ultimatums, and constant rejection. Freedom to build a life together, away from the pain that had consumed them for too long. Far from the feud, far from the hostility, Jenny and Sumit finally glimpsed a future they could shape together, a life of their own making, where love was enough and judgment held no power. Their journey wasn't over, but they had chosen each other over everything else. They were free, together, and ready to begin again. Jenny and Sumit's departure from India was not a quiet affair. It was bittersweet, filled with tears, hugs, and lingering glances at the life they were leaving behind. Every corner of their home held memories, some joyful, others painful. The kitchen where Jenny had spent hours cooking traditional meals to please Sumit's family. The balcony where they had shared whispered conversations under the stars. The living room where laughter had once echoed. It all felt heavy with the weight of goodbye. As they loaded their belongings into the moving truck, Jenny held Sumit's hand tightly. We're doing the right thing, she whispered. We can't keep living like this. always trying to please people who refuse to accept us. Sumit nodded, though his heart ached. He had been torn between his mother's love and his wife's loyalty for so long that the idea of leaving home completely felt like abandoning a part of himself. Yet, looking into Jenny's eyes, he knew he had no choice. The flight to America was long and silent. Neither of them spoke much, each lost in their thoughts. Jenny stared out the window, watching the clouds drift past, imagining a life where they could wake up each morning without fear of judgment, without the heavy shadow of disapproval hanging over them. Sumit, beside her, ran his fingers through his hair, thinking of the family he was leaving behind. His parents had been everything to him, shaping his values, guiding his life, but their rigid expectations had become a cage. Now, for the first time, he was stepping out of that cage, hand in hand with the woman he loved. Once they landed in America, the sense of relief was palpable. No one knew their story here. They didn't have to explain themselves, justify their choices, or endure gossip and disapproval. Jenny finally felt like she could breathe. She smiled, a genuine smile, for the first time in months. "It feels like we're starting over," she said, looking around their temporary apartment. Sumit squeezed her hand. "We are," he replied. "And this time it's our life, ours alone." The first few weeks were a mix of excitement and adjustment. Simple things they had taken for granted in India now felt new and refreshing. Grocery shopping together without judgment, cooking meals for just themselves, taking walks in quiet parks. They were rediscovering each other in a space free from hostility. Jenny began searching for work, eager to contribute and build independence, while Sumit handled the paperwork for settling into their new home. There were small arguments here and there, the kind couples have when adjusting to change, but nothing compared to the emotional battles they had faced in India. Yet, even in this newfound freedom, the shadows of the past lingered. They knew the media, fans of 90 Day Fiancé, and people following their story would continue to speculate. Headlines had already painted Jenny as the outsider wife and Sumit as the torn husband. Rumors about their relationship and the family feud circulated online, and occasional messages from strangers filled their inbox with opinions, advice, and criticism. But now, in America, those voices felt distant. Jenny and Sumit learned to shield themselves from the noise, focusing instead on building a peaceful life together. Months passed, and their routine grew steady. Jenny found a job in marketing, enjoying the independence and structure it gave her. Sumit began a small business, something he had dreamed of for years, but never had the chance to pursue in India. They decorated their apartment together, blending American and Indian traditions, cooking dishes from both cultures, and slowly making the place feel like home. It was a simple life, but it was theirs. For the first time, they weren't living for approval. They were living for themselves. Despite the distance from Sumit's family, the emotional scars remained. Every so often, a call or a message from India reminded them of the feud they had left behind. Sumit's parents occasionally reached out, expressing hurt, anger, or even attempting to guilt him into returning. At first, Sumit felt conflicted, torn between the desire to reconcile and the need to protect his own peace. But Jenny reminded him gently, "We can't fix people who don't want to change. We have to focus on our family now, us." And slowly, Sumit learned to let go. Their love, tested to the limits in India, grew stronger in America. The trials they had endured had given them perspective, patience, and resilience. Arguments still happened, but they were minor compared to the emotional battles they had survived. They laughed more easily, touched more freely, and shared moments of intimacy without the weight of fear or judgment pressing down on them. Each small victory, each ordinary day, was a triumph over the pain of the past. Jenny also discovered the strength she had developed through the ordeal. She began advocating for other women in similar situations, sharing her story in private online communities and support groups. She encouraged women facing family pressure, cultural rejection, or false accusations, letting them know that resilience and self-respect could lead to freedom. Sumit watched her, proud of her courage, and often reminded her, "You're stronger than anyone I know. Together, we've survived what most people can't even imagine." As the years went on, Jenny and Sumit built a life filled with love and mutual respect. They traveled, explored new cities, and hosted friends from both cultures in their home. Their relationship had matured beyond the drama that once defined it. They understood each other deeply, each sacrifice, each fear, each moment of doubt. And in that understanding, they found a peace that had been impossible in India. Sometimes, late at night, they would talk about their old home, the house they had sold, and the family they had left behind. There were tears, but no bitterness. They mourned what could have been, but they never regretted choosing each other over a life of constant turmoil. They had chosen love, and in doing so had chosen themselves. Their story, once played out in front of cameras and scrutinized by millions, now belonged solely to them. It was no longer a tale